All right. Hey, everybody. I guess I'm live. Sorry about the first couple minutes of silence there. Trying a whole new setup this time. So you'll notice that the camera is moving all over the place. I'm trying a new setup that has some tracking so that I don't have to constantly be shifting my setup. Of course, the bad news is now that the camera wants to track. So we'll see how this works out. If you guys like it, if it gets the response that I want or not. But if you see me standing kind of funny, that's because right now I have it set to track on my left hand. So I'm going to try and keep my left hand in such a place where it works out. There is about a 10-second delay too from what I've said or put on, and then it actually goes live. So sorry about that. Continuing with Midweek with the Maker, we finished up last week the axe. So I put it all together. You saw, if hopefully you're watching and following me on Instagram and on YouTube. We affixed the head to the handle, put some glue in there, put the wedge in, and that was where it set. The two things that I did off camera because they're really boring is I painted the head with a raw linseed oil that has bits of black oxide in it. And that works really well with a forge finish piece. The black oxide sinks down into those little nooks and crannies and gives us a really nice dark look. It helps make a lot of things pop. I'm going to come in close, and again, there's a 10-second delay, so sorry about that if it doesn't quite work out. But it makes my touch mark really show up on the axe here. So now the camera's actually catching up. You can kind of see it there. The other thing that I did is I added on this side a rubberized plastic cover. And I like to do that on my pieces, on my axes in particular, to cover the bit so it stays protected. Excuse me. It stays protected while it's getting worked on in the shop, but also if somebody just randomly comes up and touches the piece, the chances of them hurting themselves are much smaller. I have a very strict "you bleed on it, you bought it" policy, so this is a way that I try and protect people. One thing I do want to do for this is I want to make a nice leather bit cover, but it's kind of a blustery day here where I'm at, and I don't have the setup in my leatherworking shop. It's really dark, really not as good. So for this week, I just wanted to do here out in the shop. I'll tell you guys that this is going to be an upcoming feature, but I didn't want to move leather through the rain, and I didn't want to move the axe through the rain. So that's just going to have to wait. So for today with Midweek with a Maker, we're setting the axe aside and we're going to go to a couple smaller projects. Some feedback that I got was, even though the whole intention of Midweek with a Maker is to be a live stream, here's what life is like for a blacksmith in the middle of the week. Some feedback that I got was that you guys would prefer shorter videos. I don't want to do a lot of editing, so instead of filming a long video and then chopping it up, I'll just try and do a little bit smaller bits of the work. The hardest part, of course, when I've got a big project like an axe, is that I pause the project when I'm not doing Midweek with a Maker, and then it just ends up taking floor space up in my humble shop. Another thing that happened from previous videos is I had somebody come up and say, "Oh, you're left-handed." So I tried to correct that in this orientation with this new camera. I'm right-handed, so I wanted that to come across through the video, but I don't really know what I'm doing. when it comes to video editing and videography and stuff like that. I'm a blacksmith, and that's where I want to be. So I'm going to continue trying to do that. Sorry about that. Again, the camera is tracking on my left hand. Oh, somebody just messaged me here. Nope, not important. So if I move my left hand around too much, then it's going to make you guys all want to take Dramamine. So today I'm just going to do a really simple project. I've got a few hooks that I need to make, itty bitty hooks, and I start with these little slugs. These are from previous projects. One of the things that I love about being a blacksmith is I can use pieces even this small for really good projects. I am very much a reduce, reuse, recycle kind of guy. So having my itty bitty slugs that I can turn into something is what I want to do. So I'm going to start with this little slug, and I'm going to even it out, and I'm going to put a little taper on there and draw it out so that it'll become a really nice little hook for us. So let's start by getting it in the fire. So I set the fire up before the videoing even started. If you guys notice any sounds that are not so good or overly loud, A, I'll apologize right away, but B, I will let me know. Let me know either through the comments on Instagram or in the future, so that I can try and do better. It doesn't take really long for these guys to heat up, and even these little slugs, and I have to be mindful I might lose it. So I need to be careful, but also need to have my safety glasses on. So here's my little slug, nice and hot. Now I hit a little bit harder so I can hit after the piece starts to cool off too much. Remember that to a blacksmith, red hot is cold. So I don't want to hit it after it's already at the red hot most of the time. So now I've got, you can see in the orientation here, it's tapered very much this way and tapered a little bit this way. This thickness here is what's going to give me the length so I can have enough material to make a hook. But instead of trying to put that really thin part into the fire, I'm going to put the thicker part that I haven't hit on yet in there and draw that length out that way. And that will give me the ability to get a decent size. I tried setting the tracking up for like head or upper body, and it was fine, except it was too high. So like you guys wouldn't get to see the fire, or when I was swinging a hammer, you wouldn't get to see the anvil, which is kind of the point. So I set it to my hand, but now where it's hopefully not going to freak out too much during regular filming. I have been wondering as of late if I'm one of those people who is seasonal affect disorder. When the weather is all blustery like it is today, I get a little down, to be honest with you. Doesn't help that it's a day after an election. I'm not a really hyper political guy. I don't really well, frankly, I don't really believe in all that. So when I woke up this morning, it's everywhere. And I've been kind of disappointed with people, whether the side that you wanted to won or the side that you wanted to lost. I've just seen some really nasty comments and people being really nasty, and I find that really disheartening. Like, people have their beliefs, and that's cool. People should have beliefs, but I mean, my way of approaching it is people are people, and so let's have conversations. Let's get to know each other. Of course, I have my opinions too, and they may be different than some other people's, but I don't want to be acerbic or abrasive in that. If we can get along with each other, which we can, that's good. Let's try and do that. Let's try and be decent, and especially if you're trying to say that somebody else is being indecent, you kind of lose the moral high ground when you suddenly start becoming indecent. So that's again, part of the hook of Midweek with a Maker is a little philosophy. So there you go. Coming back. See, it doesn't really take all that much. But with all that shifting, I bet you guys are really glad that I didn't set the camera to follow my right hand. So you can see I've gained a whole bunch of length there already. So here's the plug that's already started. It's basically doubled in size. Still have a little bit of taper. I can actually make that a bit longer and a bit thinner, and so that's what we're going to do. With this blustery day out there, I also decided I would turn my heat on in the shop. It's been nice with the weather we've had recently. I've actually had it off, which is great, because propane's expensive, which you've heard me talk about maybe previous Midweek with the Maker. It's one of the things that I like about working with coal is that I get better fuel economy out of it. So we're going to come out. I'm using the corner of the anvil. I have a really heavily rounded section here, and that works out really well for itty-bitty drawing out. These pieces that are really difficult to hold on to by using the corner of the anvil that's heavily rounded here, I can set the piece tangentially on there, and then that rounding serves as the way that the horn would to draw the piece and stretch out some length. So almost there with this guy. And again, I'm trying to learn how to stand and put my hands in the right place so that you guys can see everything without getting sick. All right, coming over, draw this out just a little bit more. Oop. So the reason I have these little hooks to make is I also make some copper and steel coffee scoops. And one of the things that I do is I put a little hole in them so that they can be displayed as well, because besides being a functional piece, they're also a decorative piece. And I had actually gave one to my in-laws, and they want to hang it up, but I hadn't made a hook for them yet. So that's where one of these hooks is going. I also have to make a hook that's a little bit different, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it yet, which means I'm going to do it off camera. I'm not going to show you guys. But a number of years ago, I made a branding iron for my dad, who was a woodworker. And I need to make a hook for that because he can't do any woodworking anymore, but he still has the brand, and my mom wants to set it up as a display piece in the house. So I need to figure out that hook. But the way I made the handle is I made it a basket twist, and then I did a little, it's not a scroll, it's just a hook, but the way that the brand actually got attached to the handle is sideways. So now I have to make a hook that kind of goes sideways in order to be able to hold it, which is a little weird, but that's one of the fun things about working with metal is I can do some weird things. So I'm just flattening out the piece now, trying to get it a little uniform. Almost there. When making hooks like this, itty bitty hooks, I find it very important to keep it thin in this orientation because I punch the holes in the coffee scoop handles, and so there's a little variation in each and every one of those. So it's better for the hook to be a little on the thin side so that it can pass through a hole that maybe wasn't as big as I had originally hoped for. So just thinning out. Now this is another really important part where I call it breaking the corners. I turn the piece, and this is really hard to do. This is because energy wants to flow in a straight line. I need to make it so that the corners are slightly rounded. So we'll see. It's probably not going to work because it's tracking on my left hand, but there are facets around there. And the reason for that is because we don't want sharp 90-degree corners. I punch a round hole in these pieces, and if I got a sharp corner on there, it's going to scratch it up and not be as nice. So breaking the corners so that they're slightly rounded, and then you can't do it just 3/4 or halfway up the piece. You got to break the corners all the way up to the top. So we'll finish breaking that corner. When breaking corners, it doesn't have to be super hot. Like I had that a little too hot as it came out. Not too bad. Nothing burned. Nothing really out of order. And then I come back over the top with just some light planishing hits, and that takes any of those ridges that might show up and drives them back down in, and that's how you can end up with a nice rounded edges, if not slightly beveled pieces for a hook. All right, so now I'm going to start making the hook, but in order to do that, I don't want a sharp point on there. So I'm going to do what's called a snub end scroll on the very tip here. That 10-second delay on the video after I've done something to when it actually shows up on the screen, it's really irritating to me. I don't know if it is to you guys. So the difference between a snub end scroll and a regular scroll is the snub is nice and tight. Nice and tight. I don't want to see space in between there. So using the parts of the anvil to the best of their ability here. Got it started. Don't stare too long into the fire. Then it stares back. These smaller pieces can be kind of frustrating. Don't need to hit very hard at all on these guys to get those snub end scrolls, especially when they're nice and delicate. Let's see if this will show up. We'll try and get really close here. You can see, oh, then the camera resets. Doesn't like that. Trying to figure out how this thing works. So you can see it's actually taken up a lot of meat there of the material. So we're ready to turn it into a hook now. Now when I bend a hook after I put a regular scroll on there, I make sure to cool off that scroll if I'm working with mild steel. When it's a snub end scroll, I don't have to worry about that at all because everything's already nice and tight. But what's kind of important to remember is when you're bending a hook, scroll up, hook down. So on the horn, scroll up, hook down. I don't need to hit hard. I'm not hitting directly on the anvil. I'm hitting off to the side so that it's bending around. I'm not using the horn as a form. I'm using it as a radius. There's nothing wrong with using forms, really. Every blacksmith kind of draws their own arbitrary line in the sand of how they want to do things, and that's exactly what it is, arbitrary. I got some friends who don't want to use any power equipment in their shop. Okay. And I got some friends who want to use every latest and greatest toy that they can afford. And okay, that's great. The nice part about being friends with both of those people is I get experience on both sides. So there it is. Itty bitty hook. We don't need it really high up. We don't need it overly large because it's just got to hold the little piece. It's got to kind of complement the coffee scoop that I made. And that's our basic little hook. So not much to it. Not much to it at all. But I'm going to raise my hand up here. Oh, hey. Let's see if the camera is following here. It really likes looking at the hook there. All right. Well, I'm going to wait for the image to show up. I think it's still going to be a little bit off. All right, my friends. Thanks. That's we're gonna call that a wrap on this week's midweek with a maker. 25 minutes, a little bit shorter than normal. Just making a simple hook, little philosophy. It's kind of my joy to spend time with you guys. So hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know what you think about the new format, the new camera. Is there something I need to learn? Something a secret that you know that I need to in order to do this a little bit better. Other than that, thanks for joining me with Midweek with a Maker. Hopefully, on a blustery day like today, you get a chance to make something of yourself. All right.